Today we're focusing on learning English through everyday conversations.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
It is, and especially for those of you who are just starting out,
Yeah.
we'll be using the simplest words possible.
Okay, cool.
So don't worry if you're a beginner.
Gotcha.
Our topic today is book recommendations.
Okay.
And to guide us through this, we have our expert here.
That's right. We'll be breaking down a short dialogue about recommending books
Perfect.
so you can feel comfortable using these phrases yourself.
Let's meet our two friends, Alex and Ella, who are going to chat about books.
Yeah, let's listen to their conversation
Okay.
to see how it flows naturally.
I'm ready.
All right.
I want to read a book.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any ideas?
Yes. Do you like adventure books?
A little,
Okay.
but I like mystery books more.
Then you should read The Secret Case.
What is it about?
It's about a girl who solves a big mystery in her town.
That sounds fun.
Yeah?
I will read it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that was a short and sweet conversation.
Yeah.
Sounded very natural, didn't it?
It did. It did.
What parts of the dialogue stood out to you?
I think the simplicity of the language is key,
Yeah.
even with basic vocabulary.
Yeah.
Alex and Ella could have a meaningful chat about books.
Right.
That's really encouraging for new English learners.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you say?
It shows you don't need to know a ton of words to start speaking English.
Yeah.
Now let's take a closer look at some of the words and phrases they used.
Okay.
For example, we heard words like adventure,
Yeah.
mystery, and solve.
Mm-hmm.
What do these words mean in the context of books?
So adventure books are about exciting experiences,
Okay.
like journeys or exploring new places.
Right.
Mystery books are about secrets, puzzles,
Yeah.
and trying to find out who did something.
Oh, okay.
And solve means to find the answer to a problem or mystery,
Gotcha.
like a detective solving a case.
Right. Those are pretty common words when talking about books and stories.
Yeah.
I noticed Ella asked, "Do you have any ideas?"
Yes.
That's a very useful phrase, isn't it?
It is. You can use it in lots of situations, not just for books. You could say, do you have any ideas for a birthday present?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you have any ideas for what to cook for dinner?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a very versatile phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about when Alex asked,
Yeah.
what is it about?
Right.
That's a pretty direct way to ask about the plot of a book, right?
Exactly. It's a simple question, but it gets straight to the point.
Okay.
You're asking for more information about something specific. In this case, the book, The Secret Case.
And it's something you could use for movies, too.
Yeah.
Like, what is the movie about?
Right.
Simple and effective.
Yeah.
I also picked up on how Alex said, I like mystery books more.
Yeah.
Is that how you express a stronger preference in English?
Yes. Using more is a good way to compare your preferences.
Uh-huh.
You could say, I like pizza more than pasta. Or I like watching movies more than reading books.
Right.
It's a clear way to show what you like better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's rewind and focus on some of the other key vocabulary.
Okay, let's start with adventure.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of how you might use that word in a sentence?
Let me see.
Okay.
I could say, I went on an adventure through the forest last weekend.
Perfect.
How's that?
You used it correctly to describe an exciting experience.
Okay, great.
Now, how about mystery?
Well, I could say the ending of that movie was a complete mystery.
Great, you're getting the hang of this.
All right.
Now for solve.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example?
Let me think.
Okay.
I could say, I finally solved that difficult math problem.
Excellent. You used all three words perfectly in different sentences.
Awesome.
Remember, even though these are simple words,
Right.
they're the building blocks for more complex conversations.
You're right. It's all about starting with the basics and building from there.
Exactly. And repetition is key. Repeating these words and phrases out loud, even if it feels silly, is a great way to make them stick.
I totally agree. The more you practice, the more natural they'll become.
Uh-huh.
Now let's dive a little deeper into some of those key phrases.
Yes, let's break them down and see how they can be used in different ways. Let's start with that question. Do you have any ideas?
Okay.
You already mentioned how versatile it is.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that it's not just about asking for ideas.
Yeah.
It's also a way to politely involve the other person in the conversation.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like you were inviting them to share their thoughts and opinions.
Oh, right.
So it's not just about getting information.
Yeah.
It's about building a connection. Right?
Exactly. And that's important in any language.
Yeah.
Now think about the different situations where you could use this phrase.
Okay.
Imagine you're planning a trip with friends.
Okay.
You could say, do you have any ideas for where we should go?
Right.
Or let's say you're stuck on a work project. You could ask a colleague, do you have any ideas for how to solve this problem?
That's so helpful. Just
Yeah.
changing a few words can make that same phrase work in so many different contexts.
Precisely. And it makes your English sound more natural and fluent.
Awesome.
Now, how about Alex's question? What is it about?
Yeah.
What makes this phrase so effective?
Well, it's very direct, but it's also open-ended.
Right.
It allows the other person to tell you as much or as little as they want.
That's a great observation.
Thanks.
It invites them to share their knowledge or tell a story,
Yeah.
which can make the conversation more engaging.
Right.
You know, it's interesting how these simple phrases can actually encourage deeper interaction.
It's like they're little doorways to more meaningful conversations.
I like that.
And it's not just about the questions.
Right.
We also heard Alex say a little
Yes.
when Ella asked if he liked adventure books.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was interesting.
Yes, a little is a great example of how you can soften your language to sound more polite in English. Instead of saying, no, I don't like them,
Right.
Alex used a little to express a mild preference.
Ah, so it's like saying yes, but not that much.
Right.
That makes sense. It sounds less harsh than a flat-out no.
Right. It's a subtle but important difference.
Yeah.
You know, when I was learning English, I used to struggle with these nuances.
Okay.
I would translate directly from my native language and wonder why people thought I sounded rude.
That's so relatable. I bet a lot of English learners experience it's those little cultural differences that can really trip you up.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway here?
The takeaway is to pay attention to how native speakers express themselves.
Gotcha.
Don't just focus on the words themselves, but also the tone and the way they phrase things.
Okay.
It's those subtle details that can make a huge difference.
I completely agree. It's like learning the secret code of English conversation.
Exactly. And speaking of codes,
Okay.
let's decipher another phrase from our dialogue.
All right.
Remember when Alex said, "That sounds fun," after Ella described the book?
Yes, that seemed like a really natural way to express interest.
It is. It's a simple way to show that you're engaged in the conversation
Well.
and that you like the suggestion.
Yeah.
You can use it in many situations.
Okay.
For example, if someone suggests a restaurant, you could say, "That sounds delicious."
Oh, okay.
Or if someone invites you to a party, you could say, "That sounds like fun."
Oh, I see. So it's not just about books.
Right.
It's a versatile phrase for showing enthusiasm and agreement.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
That's great. And that's the beauty of language learning.
Yeah.
It's like putting together a puzzle, the more pieces you learn, the clearer the picture becomes.
I love that analogy now. What can our listeners do to really make these phrases their own?
Well, first and foremost, don't be afraid to practice them out loud.
Okay.
It might feel silly at first,
Right.
but the more you repeat them, the more natural they will sound.
Right. Repetition is key. And maybe even try writing your own short dialogues using these phrases.
That's a good idea.
Like, imagine you're recommending a movie to a friend.
Mm-hmm.
How would that conversation go?
That's a fantastic idea. And you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just have fun with it.
Exactly.
Eh,
The goal is to get comfortable using the language,
right.
not to be grammatically perfect every time.
I couldn't agree more. Now, let's shift gears for a moment and think about the bigger picture.
Okay, I'm ready. Where are we headed?
Right.
We've been breaking down this dialogue about book recommendations.
Right.
But how does that connect to becoming more fluent in English?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Think of this dialogue as a blueprint.
Okay.
It shows you the basic structure of a conversation, an opening,
Right.
a question to get things going, a bit of back and forth,
Yeah.
and a natural ending.
Okay.
You can apply the same structure to almost any topic.
Oh, okay, cool.
You want to talk about it in English?
So it's like a framework
Huh?
that you could use for other types of conversation.
Exactly.
That's really helpful.
For example, let's say you want to talk about movies instead of books.
Right.
You could use the same phrases we've discussed,
Right.
but just change the topic. Instead of, do you have any ideas for a book to read?
Yeah.
You could say, do you have any ideas for a movie to watch?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So the structure stays the same, but the content changes.
right.
That makes practicing English a lot less intimidating.
Exactly. And remember, the more you practice these basic structures and phrases,
Uh-huh.
the more confident you'll become in adapting them to different situations.
Yeah.
It's like building a foundation for your English fluency.
That's a great way to think about it. And I think one of the most important things we've touched on today
Yeah.
is the importance of active listening.
Yes.
It's not just about understanding the words.
Right.
It's about picking up on those subtle cues
Uh-huh.
and responding in a way that keeps the conversation flowing.
Absolutely. Active listening is crucial for any successful conversation.
Yeah.
It shows the other person that you're engaged
Right.
and interested in what they have to say,
Uh-huh.
and it helps you understand the context of the conversation,
Right.
which is essential for responding appropriately.
Right. It's about more than just vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with the other person
Uh-huh.
and showing that you're truly listening to what they're saying.
Exactly. And it's a skill that takes practice.
Right.
Just like any other aspect of language learning.
Yeah.
So here's a challenge for our listeners.
Okay.
Next time you're having a conversation in English,
Uh-huh.
really focus on actively listening.
Okay.
Pay attention to not just the words,
Yeah.
but also the tone of voice,
Uh-huh.
the body language, and the overall context of the conversation.
Okay.
You might be surprised by how much more you understand
Right.
and how much smoother the conversation flows.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenges,
Uh-huh.
remember that learning a language takes time and effort.
Yes, it does.
There will be moments of frustration, but don't give up. The more you practice, the better you'll become.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
completely agree. And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning something new.
Yeah.
The important thing is to learn from them and keep moving forward.
Well said. So to wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
let's recap those key takeaways for our listeners.
All right. We started by breaking down a simple dialogue about book recommendations,
Uh-huh.
highlighting how basic vocabulary and phrases
Yeah?
can be used to create a natural and engaging conversation.
We also explored the versatility of phrases like Do you have any ideas?
Yes.
And what is it about?
Uh-huh.
Showing how they can be adapted to different situations.
Exactly.
And we emphasize the importance of active listening
Right.
as a key skill for successful communication in English.
It is.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into everyday English conversations, be sure to subscribe and give us a like.
Yes, please do.
We'll be back with more helpful dialogues and tips to boost your English fluency.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep having fun with the English language.
Thanks for joining the conversation here at Kaz English. We hope you found it fun and informative. Don't forget to check out kazapp.uk. That's kazapp.uk for more tips, resources, and interactive practice. Keep exploring, keep chatting, and we'll catch up with you again soon.